Time now for our must-read opinion pages. We'll go straight to David Brooks, New York Times, the politicized mind, to capitalize on one thing that Hillary Clinton said. Here's his view. We have a news media that is psychologically ill-informed but politically inflamed, so it naturally leans toward political explanations. We have a news media with a strong distaste for Sarah Palin and the Tea Party movement, and this seemed like a golden opportunity to tarnish them. We have a segmented news media, so there is nobody in most newsrooms to stand apart from the prevailing assumptions. We have a news media market in which the rewards go to anybody who can stroke the audience's pleasure buttons. Agree? Disagree?
Mark Halperin,
I would agree. I don't think it's new, though.
Well, I agree very much, but Mark Halperin, you have a problem with David Brooks' column today.
I agree with him, almost everything in the column. What I wish, though, was that we didn't, as I said before, send people to their battle stations. I don't think it's the right time to be fighting with the other side. It's the right time to be looking at your own side and looking to figure out ways to move forward.
But what does David Brooks do if he sees that conservatives have been very critical of the New York Times itself, his own newspaper, for saying there's no link, and now look at what these horrible conservatives have done? I mean, there's always a sentence that says, well, there's no connection, but, and then they attack the Tea Party, and, you know, the left has attacked the Tea Party and Sarah Palin and everybody else over the past 3 days.
That shouldn't have been done.
Okay, so does David Brooks remain silent and leave the impression out there that somehow the Tea Party, who, by the way, he's no fan of, or Sarah Palin, he's no fan of, right. But do we leave that impression out there, or do we say perhaps these people were wrong to jump to conclusions about this crazy, crazy man?
I'd like to make that point and then move on to everybody looking at their own house rather than criticizing the other side, because that's what we've spent the last 10 years plus doing. And it's led us to a place of harsh rhetoric. It doesn't mean the harsh rhetoric caused this incident. Well, it does mean, though, it's a time to try to solve things.
I couldn't agree more. And I'll tell you, Mika, I think it is absolutely critical, as we've said around this table, that when Glenn Beck comes out and calls Barack Obama a racist that hates all white people, when he stirs up hate and division the way he does, when he feeds on people's paranoia with survival seeds and food banks and all these other things, suggesting that end times are near because of Barack Obama, you know, conservatives need to call him out.
Well, and it's just like the conversation.
And they need to call out Michelle Bachmann when Michelle Bachmann says that Minnesotans should be armed and dangerous. And they need to call out Sarah Palin, yes, they do, when she puts gun sites on a map.
It's just like the conversation we had yesterday with the Philadelphia Inquirer reporter about how this is, look, connections, direct connections, blame, ridiculous. But is this time for a reset in our media? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very good opportunity. But I'm still taken by the fact that you don't think David Brooks should have written what he wrote today.
Here's what's easy to do. What's easy to do if you're on the right or on the left is to look at the other side and go to a liberal blog or a conservative radio host and say, look how outrageous the other side's being. They're politicizing this.
But hasn't David Brooks gone after the Republican side for the past 3 to 4 years?
He has, but now is the time, as I say, to do the harder thing. The harder thing is to look at your own side. The easy thing is to cherry pick.
He's already done that,
extreme examples. Well, he didn't today in the context of
our
course
current he didn't.
discussion.
Sometimes you have to defend your own side.
Again, I have no problem with the column in the abstract. What I think, though, is people now need to do the tougher thing, which is be looking at your own side rather than cherry-picking the weak spots on the other side.
I couldn't agree more.
A lot of people are writing into the New York Times. This is from a guy named Tom Debley, who says you cannot stir the cauldron of division and hate without consequences. None engaged in divisive, caustic politics will ever admit his or her part in feeding anger in politics, but let us pray that each, in his or her own dark hours of night, learn to temper the viciousness, lower the rhetorical gun sights, and bring our democracy back to dialogue and compromise that lead our nation forward.
Mike, I brought up Glenn Beck before, and I bring him up because I have a lot of family members and friends that listen to him and watch him and are frightened by the things that he says every night with his chalkboard. They really, people that watch him and listen to other people that constantly say Barack Obama is a racist, he's a Marxist, he is changing America forever, he is killing freedom in America. Those words have impact. Now, people don't go out. I'm not talking about people going out. My mom's not going to go out and shoot somebody. But my mom and a lot of other people like her that watch him every day start to believe, if they hear every day, that there's this guy in Washington, D.C., this black guy that hates all white people, and he wants to take your money. Turn the music down. And that he's a Marxist, and he wants to destroy the country you grew up in. You feed that vile message to Americans every day. It's going to have an impact.
Obviously, it's going to.
I'm not saying people are going to get shot.
No,
but it is going to have a corrosive impact on our culture and on our politics.
It does have an impact, and one of the biggest reasons it has an impact is that there are no longer any borders of definition between what is news and what is not news, and millions of people, I would bet, listen to Glenn Beck and others like him during the course of the day.
There's so many others like
it's the news.
I had the opportunity yesterday.
And I will say this, too, because there are jackasses out there that are going to say that I'm just focusing on the right. It's on the left, too.
Absolutely.
The hatred on the left, the most vile things I read right after the shooting came from the darkest corners of the left wing. Extreme hate.
George Bush.
It's on both sides.
Look the stuff about President Bush.
Listen, what they said about Bush and what the right said about Clinton. And by the way, what they said about George H.W. Bush, that he was running drugs in Central America, sending those drugs to South Central L.A. I mean, this sort of paranoia has infected our landscape for years, and really, I agree with Mark Halperin on this point. It is time that we call out our own sides. I'm not talking about extremists on the left by name, because guess what? That's not my side. My side, I'm a conservative, I'm a Republican. I agree with Mark, and I have for a long time. I am responsible for holding my side accountable.
I guess the question is, as Mike said, these are not news shows, a lot of them. It's show business, let's be honest. You're speaking to an audience the way American Idol's talking to teenage girls. They're talking to their niche audience. What's in it for those people to be moderate? And their audience turns to them in a moment like this. Defend our side. Defend our side. So if Rush Limbaugh, I don't want to keep using him, people on the left, the Daily Kos, whatever it is, if they swing into the middle, they lose what made their audience like them to begin with.
You say legitimately so. Call out people on your own side, the left or the right. How do you define it? By unique visitors to their website? Is that now the definition of
There's got to be a difference between the pundits and the politicians.
We'll
the politicians have to be responsible.
No doubt.